what I will steal involves. There is no escape from the moment that it calls.
Alright, and welcome to the show. I'm back after a few days of break and doing the last run, recording the episodes for the last run of episodes that I did. I took a little bit of a break before proceeding to continue going on schedule again. Let's see here. My mind is so boggled right now, and that's a good thing. That's a real good thing. I have the notes. Here's episode 49 of the Intl Podcast with me, Mickey GemInEye. I'm making this about mainstream music news versus podcasters, and I think that from my perspective is the first place I want to talk about on that is that I go off of suggested videos, but not really at all. So it's normal for podcasters to go off of suggested videos and suggested information, and basically even if you're not using AI or something like that, you can be accused of using AI. I think that's a serious issue that could be presented for like metal archives, for example, where they have a rule prohibiting against artists making AI and AI artists being sent into the website. So what about the people who are not AI and artists that are not AI is the question that I've had. Anyway, getting this run, I've just taken a break from the last run, and getting this run of episodes going before proceeding on schedule feels pretty good. especially since we have spooky season showing up on our doorsteps here. Of course, only on the northern hemisphere. I'm not sure where you are, but we're on the northern hemisphere, and this really is the list of notes that I have here that are ready to go on with the topic here. As I was saying, with my perspective on those other podcasts that could be suggested, it's one thing if it's literally there are no two separate issues to discuss here. It's the podcasts that become suggested to me, or artists that become suggested to me because I like these artists or because I like these podcasts. That's a done deal. That's a given. It's no big deal to anybody my age, in my age group, that suggested videos or any suggested content matches and is in alignment with what I like. So there's not going to be much to discuss there, aside from that when I do set myself down, take the time, set the time aside, and actually look for any of the ideas that I might have floating around and say, I'm looking for this podcast, this kind of podcast, like a scary story podcast or something like that. I come across some that I do like, and I have come across a few, and there are a couple that I like. I'm not going to be able to refrain from mentioning those here, as that's exactly what this episode's topic is about. So those being the introductory words that I've used here for this episode, I'm going to reintroduce myself. I'm Mickey GemInEye, and this is the Vault of Doom podcast, episode 49. What I'm really looking forward to the most here on this show is the new season, and just to hold myself over and hold you guys over. I would very much appreciate my audience here being supportive of the subscriptions and the comments that I've gotten on my official Mickey GemInEye YouTube channel. I want to give those shout outs here on the next episode, as I'm recording those on the same string, and you can get the shout outs on over there. That said, these are also going to be pretty brief, just as I'm writing down these topics, overloaded with all this stuff, super overloaded with like literally doing. It's one thing to be a one-man band. It's a whole nother thing to be doing music videos, podcasts, then one-man band. I mean, this is absolutely just moronic, idiotic. This is ridiculous. But I do make it work, so I'm not sure if you want to interpret that as I'm complaining or not, but you please should let me know in the comments before I go absolutely crazy thinking to myself, well, I have all these viewers and not knowing what the fuck that they think about it. This leads me to believe, I posted that episode about this previously, and this leads me to believe that these aren't even real views at all, and I'm under some sort of new beta testing quarantine style thing or something. But it's clearly obvious that that's what it is, especially in the case of my movie, where there's hundreds of views on that movie and no comments at all. Whoa. No likes either. So, I can only act like I'm going crazy about that for so long, but that's why it's also very helpful, too, that you could check out that next episode, literally describing that in my physical world, in real life. This is the online community that I'm referring to, and it seems to have bled into my physical, actual, real life. So whatever that is, and whenever that's over with, I'll be pretty glad to do that. But knowing how I always run things, it'll probably happen at the same time as 5th season premiere of this show. And fingers crossed that that's what it is, so that I can thoroughly enjoy the new theme song that I've got to squeeze in recording, just making something up on the spot, as I have done and have been doing, to add into that next season, as well as the new photo. But for now, the new photo that I have is like literally a let me use this to hold me over, and it's pretty cool. There's a bunch of ways that I'd love to go into detail in describing it, but I'd rather just stay on topic. So here I have the notes that I've written saying that this is a post-International Podcast Day episode, which it is, and I'm rehashing what could be improved upon, and I can't, so let me try to do that anyways, with the way that I think that International Podcast Day could be improved upon under the context of something other than web developers, something other than who controls the application YouTube and who controls the application Spotify, but what could be improved upon with my show and in contrast to other shows. So there's two things like super big required, and there's actually another episode of this, I think it's actually the next episode after this, it's showing you how to start a podcast, how to start running a podcast, to start your own podcast. And that's a spoiler alert. Those are going to be the two key things. You need context and contrast. Right now, it seems like I have neither one, but it's just almost just a little bit too, I don't know. I'm going to need to make something up to try to figure out why the show is doing the way that it is. But at the same time, I do have a couple new subscribers, even though they're just regular people watching regular videos. That's what the majority of the subscribers are going to be when you do this. And what could be improved upon under the context of my show and looking at other people's shows based on what I'm seeing through suggested videos and AI, contrasting that to what it actually is right now, like blabbing into a cookies jar that becomes, it just becomes useful to the web developers, and it becomes useful to YouTube and all of these other things. But as I said, I'm juggling doing this show on my own, and I have a guest coming on here scheduled to be on the show in 2 weeks. I'm scouting out other guests to be on the show again. And even last night, I was actually thinking about writing down and going through all of this. This episode might be an adequate way to do so. Just kind of scanning through, running through what this show has actually been through. So, for example, the amount of guests on the show are countless. The amount of musicians that have been on the show, I'm gonna count right now using my fingers and say, let's go, starting with number one, of course. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So like 10 musicians have been on the show, and this version of the show has like no evidence of that. So having this new guest on the show is going to be, in a couple weeks, is going to be pretty good. And I want to try to get these, as this show is going to be finishing this 4th season of its incarnation this week, I have a slot open for anybody that wants to be on next week. And that means the following week we'll have another guest on the show, and then all the following weeks after that, all the weeks that follow the week after next are available for new guests to be on the show and sit and chat about music. And that's pretty cool. That's pretty rad. That's awesome. I'm pumped about it. and seeing how much time that I want to take is maybe 15-20 minute talk. I saw that worked last time, and it turned out to be both my guests on the show last time ran over 1 hour long when it was supposed to be like a 15-minute thing. So it's all dependent on how much time they have. I know the guest I have scheduled is super busy, as they have some stuff that they mentioned ahead of time, so their episode might be limited to a 10 to 20 minute type of thing. And having this fucking context and contrast already set now for what could be improved upon, honestly, just like once these kinks are smoothed out on all the problems that I've been having with the technical difficulties, just basically kind of a thing of like moving forward at all costs sort of thing. I mean, I'm not going to be able to sit around and teaching and telling everybody this is some problems you might run into with your starting your podcast. These are how you can prevent it. This is how you can fix it. I'm not going to do that. And I don't need to explain myself, nor am I going to. But hey, that sucks, because there might be a whole void right there, just specially selected and reserved for that specific thing that to happen when it won't happen. And if it does happen naturally, it's very not naturally at all. So as for the International Podcast Day episode that I did, I mean, that was this whole show. Every episode, one episode after the other. Each one is just, it's just constant, like it's just absolute ridiculousness. Cannot bear to stand it, and there's only like a few things that I like about it. So sitting around doing highlights of and best of episodes, that's like something that I have reserved for later, or just like, when I want to do a best of episode is basically what it is. It's not like I'm regularly doing this. Like, I'm totally operating under like in a professional way, and that's what this show has become. I'm operating the thing in a professional way, and having some pretty serious issues to deal with that are going to have to just work themselves out naturally, and deal with itself. The show is the show, okay? And then the next episode is where you want to check out some of the stuff that's on my mind right now. As I have the notes for that one queued up. That one's recorded right after this one as well, so I can move on along with the notes that I also have right here prepared. Protecting your data. That's something that should also be for the next episode as well. But generally, with International Podcast Day being a great way for these companies to hoard all of your information, that you like this, you like that, okay, it's saved all into a giant web. You can protect your data and go through each application not giving permission to collect your data. It's a whole day thing. Not everybody's going to do it. Some will do it. And some will do it with or without hearing me say it. But hearing me say it is going to help me probably get around to it as well. I think. Maybe, possibly something like that. Because there is a bunch of problems with that. So there's one thing that you can do when you are a podcaster versus the mainstream stuff. Obviously, we all know all the jargon that comes with mainstream everything. So I'm not going to fill your head with that shit or fill my time talking about it. But all the mainstream stuff versus the podcasters, that's also a matter of preference. And that also goes into a box in terms of your data being collected. Though that does or might belong into the next episode, it segues perfectly into the next set of notes that I hear square peg round hole in a podcast that I listen to, and I fucking say that all the time. I also was haggling the other day, and then some advertisement or something had this on there. So it's a little bit of a funny thing. Before you could try to say it's a personal thing or that I'm reacting a certain way or something like that. But ultimately, that's really what I want the most from the whole thing is not that I actually want it. It's just that ultimately I'm aware of that desire being there inside of me somewhere that wants this reaction posted of basically a freak out. It's like a kind of like a freak out sort of thing, and just kind of decaying and just totally melting your psyche in that kind of way. It is I would have to say it's just absolutely delightfully wicked, and luckily I am a pretty much already wrote these in songs lyrics, so that I make the song with it, and then I don't have to worry about it too much. But if I have the chance to sit here and talk about it, hey, I feel pretty fortunate to do that. So that's cool. And not cool that it happens, I guess. You know, maybe to some other people. I mean, how is any suggested or AI stuff going to help me with that where I care? You know, that's where it comes down to. It will help me in finding this, and I won't care, though. So, I just feel just so superior to the whole fucking game, ultimately. And then it's not enough. It's not enough to do that. It's not enough to feel superior. I have to add insult to injury and add some salt on an open wound. When really, all that it is a fucking machine. It's a fucking mindless robot that I'm probably referring to as my enemy. So, I don't know what I'm getting so worked up about for, but if I did know what I was so worked up about it for, I would completely fucking ignore my understanding of that, because we all know what the fuck these data and cookies and all this collecting your information is. Imagine what the fuck that would do if I was some kind of wise man or holy man or something correcting my... It's not even a typo. Like, how do I even talk? How am I supposed to even be able to talk right now at all? It's like, I'm not even correcting a typo. I'm correcting a backspace. It's like, you know, it's horrible, man. It's so horrible, some of the stuff that you have to go through with running a business, basically. I'm basically a businessman running a business. And that really wraps up all the notes that I have, but doing a verses in the title is important, where I wanted to just say mainstream music news versus podcasters. And that's really ultimately this is the essence of the show. This is the essence and the guts of what I aim to and look forward to adding in, implementing into my chats, my rants, and kind of inoculating my listeners and viewers with the mentality that, hey, you could literally just sit up here and babble and make no sense, and eventually it becomes fun and interesting, and maybe you'll learn something, but it's certainly much better to sit here and spend your time doing this than much less fun other things that you could be spending your time doing. And that is that. I think I stuttered a little bit there, but that's just It's just like a redo then. It's a double stutter because I got a redo. That is that! These ultimately, these kind of titles like mainstream music news versus podcasters would lead to, when I'm thinking in my head later about a future idea for a future episode, like underground podcasters versus underground podcasters. You know, that's an interesting thing to add to my repertoire and add to my library. And I would just oust it out, shyster it out right now, in terms of what I'm just going to do it right now then, and then I won't have to worry about it later, or something like that, I guess. Podcasters versus podcasters. So mainstream music news versus podcasters. I mean, that's, everybody's making their own podcasts now. So it's a debate that I would be having with myself about the title of this episode right now, if I wasn't one step ahead of the game, rendering obsolete the idea of podcasters versus podcasters in a future episode, with the details involved with that being, well, everybody's like literally just focused on their own shit. So when I did find on International Podcast Day some underground podcasters doing their thing, and then the emotions arose, or thoughts and opinions arose from the first impression, it stopped right there, considering I didn't click on it and listen to it. And those guys didn't get to experience my view or like or something like that. It's not all that big of a deal, but it just is, considering that these are the actual levels of conversation that don't go places, with the next episode being quite full of a bunch of stuff that are also going to be just as bad for business as this is. I don't know, maybe I'll get it in my head one day that that's what I'm doing wrong, but I gotta go. I'm Mickey GemInEye, also doing podcast episode 49. Bye.